In this module, we will inspect vector data for topology areas and explore ways in which to clean the dataset so that it conforms to the vector topology model. So the first thing you need to do is to add your data layers. As you can see here, I've already loaded my roads unclean layer. So it's my vector layer and my raster layer. Now we are going to change the CRS of our project. So on your right hand side, bottom right, when you click on that F icon, it takes you to the project coordinate reference system. We are going to filter fetch and use the 3857. However, as you can see, my project is already set to 3857, so I don't have to change that. Now we are going to add our two plugins that we're going to use in this project. And to add plugins, you have to navigate to the plugins menu, go to manage and install plugins. Then search for the plugins that you would like to install. So the first one is Topology Checker. As you can see, mine is already installed, so I don't have to reinstall that. And the second one is the Geometry Checker. And as you can see there, it's already installed as well. Right, now moving on, the first step or the first task that we are going to do is to style our roads layer. Open the properties of the roads layer. And under symbology, we are going to use the specifications that are given in our exercise table to style our road layer. So the simple line color, we're going to use HTML notation for that. Okay, and we are going to change our stroke width to 0.86. Right, now that we have done, we are going to open the properties of the vector layer, which is our road layer. We are going to go back to our properties and go to the layer rendering under the symbology tab. So properties again. Layer rendering. Also under our symbology tab. Layer rendering. And under blending mode, we are going to change the feature and choose multiply from the drop down. Multiply and okay. Now we're going to change or zoom in, zoom to a scale of 1:2500. So on the drop down here next to scale, we have different options. We are going to choose that one. So what do you see from the roads? Are there duplicates from the roads layer? And how will you define a duplicate? Alright, now let's go to the attributes table. Just study our attributes table and note the number of features that are available from this layer. So in total, we have 131 features, right? This is our roads unclean layer. Remember that. Let's quickly minimize that. Okay, so for part 1 of our exercise, we are going to remove duplicates. Right, so navigate to the processing menu, go to toolbox, and search for delete duplicates algorithm. It's found under the vector general toolbox. Click on that. Our input layer is the roads unclean layer, and field to match duplicates by. So when you click on the ellipses, we are going to match them by road name, and we are going to save to file our output layer and name it. So let's name it roads clean. Save and run the algorithm. Okay, algorithm is finished. Right, let me minimize that. So now we are going to open the attributes table of the roads clean layer that we just created. Right, so where the duplicates cleaned up, please also note that now the features in total, the total number of features is 46. So from 131 to 46. And where the roads cleaned up, and was the definition of the duplicates that we used concise. So remember, you can play around with the different options that we had on the algorithm delete duplicates. There was suburb name, there was road name as well. So you can play around with those different options just to choose a suitable definition for this project. All right, let's check the road name. Okay, so far I don't see any duplicates. Minimize that. Now we're going to use the topology checker to validate against duplicates. All right, so that's the topology checker. Remember, we did install this plugin at the beginning of this exercise. So when you click on that icon there, it says topology checker, so that's what we're going to use. And we are going to configure the topology rule settings on this interface. So the layer that we are going to use here is the roads clean layer, and we are checking for duplicates. So the rule must we must use the rule that says must not have duplicates. Okay, add the rule, and we are going to validate all. Okay, as you can see, 0 errors were found, so we don't have any duplicates visible. Now we are going to remove the roads unclean layer from QGIS, because we don't need that layer anymore. I can just turn it off. So now for our part 2, we are going to be checking other topology errors. So again, using the topology checker plugin, we are going to configure it to check for the following errors. So we have dangling nodes, invalid geometries, multi-part geometries, and pseudos. So let's go to our topology checker. Go to the configure icon, and we are going to use our roads clean layer. Firstly, we are going to check for dangling nodes, add that rule, repeat the same process. However, now we're going to change the rule to invalid geometries. And we are going to do that for the rest of the rules. Lastly, intro. So now you can either validate each rule individually, or you can just validate all of them, right, at the same time. So I'm just going to validate all of them at the same time. Okay, validate all. As you can see, we have 92 errors that were found. Let me quickly scroll down. Dangling end. Okay. Just want to quickly check if it validated everything at once or it did it separately. Right, now that we have validated all our rules, we are going to go back to the error. No, we're going to. Alright, now that we have validated all our rules, what can you say about the topological errors that have been identified? Okay, click on Configure in the Topology Checker panel and delete all the rules defined. Delete rule. Right, and run validate all to clean up the results panel. Okay, so now that we've cleaned up the results panel, we are going to close that and move on to part 3 of our exercise, which is cleaning up. We are going to use the processing tool to reproject the road layer to the specified CRS. So that's our first step. Go to the processing menu toolbox, search for reproject. Under vector general, reproject layer. And our input layer is our roads and clean layer. We are going to change our CRS to the one that's stated in our exercise table, which is 3857, the Studio Mercator one. Okay, run the algorithm. Right, let me turn off the initial layer and just rename the reprojected one. Okay, reprojected roads clean. Fine. Now that we have done that, we are so quick question, what other way exists to reproject vector layers in QGIS and why is it important? Alright, so now we are again in the processing toolbox, we are going to use the vclean algorithm. So in order for your vclean algorithm to work, you have to use QGIS with grass. So going back to the processing toolbox, vclean. the layer that we are cleaning is our reprojected roads clean layer, and our cleaning tool, when you click on the ellipses, we are going to use snap instead of break, because here it says that we must fill in the tool appropriately, selecting the cleaning tool snap. Okay, and our threshold, we are going to set it to 20 to experiment with the other tools. Quick question, what are the units of this threshold? Right, and we are going to leave everything else as it is, default. Save our cleaned layer. And run the algorithm. Okay, now that we have completed that, this is our output layer and these are the errors. So let's quickly explore the attribute table. Okay, and these are our errors. All right, so run the tool iteratively using the cleaning tool snap and the threshold with small values that increment on each iteration. Use the output of each iteration, as input into the next iteration. Moving on, we're doing the last part of our exercise, which is part 4. Okay, so for part 4, we are going to use the layer creation options specified in our table to create a new vector layer. So we are going to go to the layer menu, create. We are going to create a new spatial light layer. Do that, give it a name. Let's name it tracing for the sake of this exercise. Tracing road. And we are going to change the coordinate reference system to that specified in our exercise table, and that's the 3857. Okay. The geometry type to multi-line. All right. Let me quickly turn off all the other layers so you only see the tracing roads layer and the reprojected roads clean, right? And the raster layer. Now that we have done that, we are going to enable the snapping toolbar. So in order to enable the snapping toolbar, you go to View, Toolbars, and you tick on next to the snapping toolbox, right? So mine is already on. I don't have to enable it. Then we are going on the snapping toolbox icon. We have to click enabling snapping. So that's it. So this is the snapping toolbar, right? The snapping toolbar. So when you click on this magnet, it enables snapping. So you'll see that all the other icons become active when that icon is enabled. And then now we are going to click advanced configuration on the snapping toolbar icon. So it's the drop down icons next to the magnet. There it is, advanced configuration. Then so you click on it to activate it, and we are going to open the snapping options. So click on it again to open the snapping options. And now we are going to activate the snapping for both layers. So the newly created layer that we just created and the reprojected vector layer. So as you can see, my tracing routes, the newly created layer is on and my reprojected layer is on. And we are going to set the tolerance to values between 40 and 60 and the units to pixels. So under tolerance, when you double click the tolerance value next to the layer that you want to change, it allows you to change the value. I've already set mine to 50, so I'll quickly set the tolerance value for the reprojected root clean layer to 50 as well. So it has to be, it's just a value between 40 and 60. Okay, and then now the units are already in pixels by default. Okay, and we are going to enable topological editing. So see, now it's off. Just look at what happens here when I click on topological editing. So the color changes or it becomes shaded, right? So it means that it's active. And we are going to enable the snapping on intersection as well. If you look here, when I enable that, the color changes, it becomes highlighted. We don't need that. Okay, then we are going to close the dialog and toggle edit the layer that I've just recently created. So click on that layer, tracing roads, and click on that pencil, which is the toggle editing. And then we are going to click on add line. So this is add line feature, and enable tracing as well. So when you click on that, it enables tracing, right? Next, move that, right. Back to that. And now we are going to we are going to digitize following the outline of the root layer, and we're going to fix areas that do not look nice. And yeah, that's it. Let's start. So I'm just gonna give you a quick example. So this is an intersection. Okay. Another intersection here. Right. So I just right click, left click, I'm gonna get to an intersection. Left click when, right click when I'm done. Okay, let me do one last road. I don't know if you can see the green. Right. So try to follow the outline of the roads as accurate as possible. Okay, so you have to do that for all the roads and make sure that they look nice and they look proper. And yes, this is it for this exercise. Right. And for the bonus section, you have to investigate other plugins or tools native to QGIS which can be used to clean the vector layer. Quick question, what is the difference between using polygons with the topology checker?